I will never forget the sound of the lock clicking shut. It was a heavy, final sound, the sound of a life being erased. It was Tuesday, October 14th, my 72nd birthday. I stood on the porch of the house I had built with my own hands 40 years ago. Rain was pouring down, soaking through my thin jacket. My son, Lucas, stood on the other side of the glass door. He didn't look sad. He looked relieved. "Go to the shelter, Dad," he shouted through the glass. "The Uber is waiting. Sarah and I need this space. You're just clutter." Clutter. That's what he called me. Not father, not dad. Clutter. I looked down at the muddy driveway. A pile of my belongings sat there, soaking in the rain. My old books, my winter coats, and right on top, my rusted, dented metal lunchbox, the one I had carried to work every single day for 45 years. Lucas opened the door one last time, not to hug me, but to kick the lunchbox down the driveway. "And take this trash with you," he screamed. "I don't want your janitor junk in my driveway." The lunchbox skidded across the asphalt and landed in a puddle. Lucas laughed, locked the door, and turned off the porch lights. I was left in the dark. He thought he had just thrown away a piece of rusty metal. He didn't know that he had just kicked away a fortune worth $50 million. To understand why my son did this, you have to understand who I was. My name is Thomas. For 45 years, I was the head janitor at Global Tech Systems. While Lucas was growing up, he was ashamed of me. When he brought friends home from his private school, the school I paid for by scrubbing toilets, he would tell them I was a facility manager. He never let me come to his career days. He never wanted to be seen with me in my work uniform. But Lucas didn't know the history of Global Tech. He didn't know that back in 1980, when the company started in a garage, there were only 3 people: the founder, Mr. Silas, and me. Silas had no money to pay me, so every Friday, instead of cash, he gave me paper stock certificates. "Hold on to these, Thomas," Silas would say. "One day, we'll be rich." I took them. I didn't trust banks. I didn't trust safes. I trusted my lunchbox. Every Friday, for 10 years, I wrapped those certificates in oil paper and placed them under the false bottom of my lunchbox. Fast forward to 2024. Global Tech is a $1 trillion company. And those papers? They were the original Class A founder shares. I never told Lucas. I wanted to surprise him. I was planning to give him the lunchbox on the day his first child was born. I wanted to say, "Here, son, your janitor father made you a king." But Lucas didn't want to wait. He wanted the house. He wanted me gone. And his greed blinded him to the gold sitting right at his feet. It breaks a father's heart to realize he raised a wolf instead of a son. If you believe that we should honor our parents, no matter what their job is, please like this video. It helps spread this message. And if you want to see justice served cold, subscribe to the channel. Now, let me tell you what happened in the rain. I walked down the driveway and picked up the lunchbox. The rusty hinge was bent from where Lucas had kicked it. My hands were shaking, not from the cold, but from rage. I didn't go to the homeless shelter Lucas had called for me. I called a taxi and went to the only place I could afford with the cash in my pocket, a cheap motel on the edge of town. The room smelled of stale smoke. I sat on the bed and pried open the lunchbox. The false bottom was still there. I lifted it. There they were, stacks of yellowed paper, untouched, dry. I did the math on the back of a napkin, 200,000 original shares. After 7 stock splits over 40 years, That was 25 million shares. At today's market price, I wasn't just a millionaire, I was a billionaire. I stared at the wall. My son had kicked a billionaire out of his house because he wanted to sell a $500,000 property. I cried that night, not because I was happy about the money, but because I realized my son didn't love me. He loved what he thought I had. And since he thought I had nothing, I meant nothing to him. The next morning, I made a call, not to Lucas, but to Mr. Henderson, the top corporate lawyer in the city. When I told him my name and what I had in the box, he sent a limousine to the motel within 20 minutes.
3 days later, I asked Mr. Henderson to summon Lucas. Lucas works as a junior executive at a marketing firm. He thinks he's a big shot. When he got the call that Henderson Law wanted to see him about his father's estate, he probably thought I had died. He arrived at the skyscraper with his wife, Sarah. They looked annoyed. "Let's make this quick," I heard Lucas say to the receptionist. "The old man probably left us debt. We just need to sign the rejection papers." They were led into the main conference room. I was sitting at the head of the table, but I wasn't wearing my janitor uniform. I was wearing a tailored Italian suit that cost more than Lucas's car. Lucas froze in the doorway. "Dad?" he asked, confused. "What? Whose suit is that? Did you steal it?" Sarah laughed nervously. "Thomas, why are you sitting there? That's the CEO's chair." "Sit down, Lucas," I said. My voice wasn't weak anymore. It was the voice of a man who owned the building. They sat. "I'm here to discuss the house," Lucas said, trying to regain control. "We sold it. The money is ours. You signed the deed. You can't undo it." I smiled. I reached under the table and pulled out the rusty, dented metal lunchbox. I slammed it onto the glass table. Bang! Lucas flinched. "The trash? I threw that away. Why do you still have that garbage?" "Because," I said, "one man's trash is another man's empire." I opened the box. I took out a single certificate. I slid it across the table. "Read it, Lucas." Lucas picked up the paper. He squinted. Then his eyes went wide. He looked at me, then back at the paper. "Global Tech, Founder Shares, 1980, he whispered. His hands started to shake. "Dad, is this real?" "It's authenticated," Mr. Henderson said from the corner. "Your father is the largest individual shareholder of the company you work for. In fact, his shares give him voting rights on your employment board." Sarah grabbed the paper. "How much?" she demanded. "How much is this worth?" Mr. Henderson checked his watch. "As of the market closing today, approximately $1.2 billion. The silence in the room was deafening. You could hear Lucas's heart breaking, not from sadness, but from greed. "Dad!" Lucas jumped up, a fake smile plastered on his face. "Oh my God, I knew it. I knew you were special. The house thing, that was just tough love. We were trying to motivate you. We were going to buy you a mansion." "Sit down," I shouted. Lucas sat. "You kicked me out in the rain," I said quietly. "You called me clutter. You kicked this lunchbox. You didn't want a father, Lucas. You wanted an inheritance. Well, congratulations. You got exactly what you deserve." I signaled Mr. Henderson. He handed Lucas a folder. "This isn't money," Lucas said, confused. "No," I replied. "It's a lawsuit for elder abuse, emotional distress, and fraud regarding the house deed. And one more thing. Since I own a controlling interest in the marketing firm you work for, you're fired." "You can't do this," Sarah screamed. "We have a mortgage. We have a Porsche." "Sell the Porsche," I said cold-heartedly, "and keep the lunchbox. It's the only thing you're getting from me." Security escorted them out of the building. I watched from the window as they stood on the sidewalk, arguing, pointing fingers at each other. Sarah left him 2 weeks later when the money ran dry. I didn't keep all the money. I donated $500 million to build housing for the elderly who have been abandoned by their families. I bought a small cottage by a lake, the one Martha always wanted. I still have the lunchbox. It sits on my mantle, polished and clean. It reminds me every day that true value isn't on the outside, it's on the inside. Lucas calls me sometimes. He works at a car wash now. He asked for money. I sent him $10 and a note that says, "Put this in a lunchbox and wait 45 years." If you have parents who sacrificed for you, call them today. Don't wait until they are gone. And never ever judge a book or a lunchbox by its cover. I'm Thomas Miller, and this was my story. Thank you for watching. We live in a world where we chase money, big houses, and expensive cars. But in the end, none of that matters. What matters is the hand that held yours when you were small. What matters is the voice that whispered, "I love you," when you were afraid. Lucas chased gold, and he lost the only treasure that was real: his family. Don't be like Lucas. Call your parents today. Forgive a small mistake. Hug them while you still can. Because time is the one thing you can never buy back. If this story touched your heart, please like this video. It helps us reach more sons and daughters who might need to hear this message. And if you believe that justice always finds a way, subscribe to our channel and join our family. I'm Thomas Miller. Thank you for listening. God bless you.